I can help
Maybe a little bit.
monitor.
That would be helpful. Just if people have questions.
Yeah.
But George and I are going to split this up. We are not going to pretend like we are VRC experts. We have both, I think, read enough and dove into some videos enough to where we'll be able to answer maybe 90% of your questions. But as Jamie mentioned during the training up there, you don't have to have all the answers. So George and I are not going to have all the answers. If your kids have specific questions, specifically about the game, the rules, the game manual, say, here's the game manual, you figure it out. I don't need to know the answers to your questions when it comes to the game. This is for you to figure out.
But we're say that it's a new game.
Yeah.
We haven't seen it played, and so we kind of think we know the interpretation of the rules, but until the game and competitions start, you really start like, okay, I get how it works. We haven't even seen the field yet. So
I saw the field so I can explain things to you. George is here to talk about competitions. But with that said as well, they update the game manual, especially in the high school space, because the kids find ways around the rules very easily. And so they update the game manual, I would say probably once a month, a couple times a month, as issues are brought to the attention of REC. But the game manual, unless you print it out, if you have the game manual on a PDF, it should update automatically. But we're going to start with the game, like I said, and then we'll talk about the competition. This year's game is called Over Under. You can find all of the resources you need at this link. That's right here. So just as Jamie had in her PowerPoint, all of the resources that you need are going to be at the robotseducation.org website. For new coaches, the game changes every year. The size of the field isn't going to change. You can see it's always going to be on this 12 by 12. We say that they changed the IQ field size, so hopefully they don't change the VRC field size. But the game elements are going to change every year. So unfortunately, that means that there's a cost every year, but I think there are ways around you don't need to be paying out of pocket for these games. Go to your school, go to your school board, go to your parents, especially as their kids get excited about robotics. There's a cost to playing, club basketball and club football, as Jamie was mentioning. So it's not out of the question that there should be team costs as well. But this is just showing all of the games that have been in the past. Last year's game for VRC was interesting. It took forever. The scoring took forever. I think we were at Lucas Oil for the state championship until like 8 o'clock scoring matches. So this year, from what I've seen, is a little bit easier. But you can see last year it was kind of like Frisbee golf. And then we'll dive into what this year's looks like. It's pretty unique, but it shouldn't be too confusing like last year's game was. We're going to watch the video, and then we're going to kind of dive into what the scoring looks like and some thoughts on different, scenarios in the game and just kind of break it down further that way. And of course, there's no sound. Maybe people at home, but I should be able to talk through it. Okay, so you'll want to watch this video with your students when you guys have your first practice. But this is Vex Over Under. It's played, like I said, on a 12 by 12 field. You've got nets on either sides, and you've got kind of a dividing tube down the middle. These things are called tri-balls. There's 60 of them on the field. They're going to be green, but each set of teams is going to have 2 red for the red alliance and 2 blue for the blue. So unlike IQ, where there's only going to be 4 robots or 2 robots on the field, in high school, there's going to be, or VRC, there's going to be 4. Like I said, you'll have the blue and the red alliance. You have a blue scoring zone, a red scoring zone, and that divider down the middle. Like high school, you'll have an alliance partner where you're kind of working with them to score as many points as you can. But you'll also have the other alliance where you're kind of competing together. We call it cooperation. You're going to be cooperating with your partner, but you're competing against the other set of partners. You'll have, and we'll dive into what each of the scoring looks like here in the PowerPoint, but they're kind of just going over the do's and don'ts of the games, kind of where things are on the field. For example, robots can only hold 1 of these tri-balls at a time. There's a loading stage. We'll talk about that here. Those are on the corners of the fields. But at the end of the day, the point of the game is to score as many points as possible in comparison to your alliance partner. There's multiple ways to score, so you'll get points for scoring it underneath the net score zone, and then you'll see here towards the end, you'll have a pole that you can climb, which I think is interesting as kids try and engineer different solutions. There's also an autonomous period. Again, we'll break it down here. I will encourage you to watch this video with sound when you have the chance to watch it with your students, but we're going to break down everything in the video. But robots can go underneath this bar to the opposite side. You'll have a red scoring zone, a blue scoring zone, as well as those nets. And like I said, it's just whoever has the most points at the end is going to be the winner. As time expires, there's going to be kind of your last little chance to get points, and that's where these bars come into play. And the way that this game for this year works is the robot that's the highest wins the most points, and it kind of scales down from there. So there's a hanging bar. They have this pole that kind of dictates the height of these robots as they hang. And the points are kind of allotted based off of what that hanging looks like. So you can see the students will come up with crazy ways to hang their robots. And we'll see what judges come up with for robots that are very close, how they deal with that. But that's kind of the structure of what these games look like. I'm going to pause it here and just kind of talk about what the last little bit of this video is. So on top of your competition, where you're working with your alliance partner competing against the other alliance, there's also skills, which is basically one robot on the field scoring as many points as they possibly can. Typically at an event, and George will talk about this later, those are off to the side. So you have like, if this was like a high school gym, you'd have the fans over there, you'd have the competition fields right here, and then skills might be over back here in the corner. So the way that we invite to the state championship is by skill scores throughout the state. So skills is very important, especially if you have some students who maybe aren't, their robot, they don't feel like their robot meshes well with other robots, and maybe they get bullied a little bit by some of the more better built robots for teams that have been a little bit more well established. So I would encourage you to do those skills as well. Any questions so far? I'm sure you have a ton of questions about the game.
There's just one right now. Biz asked what parts are included in the grant for those that have received a grant, which I think we cover later.
We do cover it later. To put your mind at ease right now, we'll cover the field, not the tiles. So the field, game elements, and your robot kit.
And then he's asking about like the field. Yeah, so like there's everything can actually be purchased from Vex. We purchase the kits, and then yeah, I'll put all the links in the chat. There's
thank you.
Focus on the game then.
All right, so here's the game manual. Like I said, you do not need to be an expert in this, but your kids need to be experts in this. It's not unrealistic to say that they need to know this in and out. It is 113 pages, which is crazy. But you'll have kids that will want to read through this. It talks about the game. It talks about, what does it mean to get inspected, making sure your robot is in its specific dimensions, because that changes every year. So as Jamie was talking about the breakdown of what your team looks like, you might want to have somebody who's the rules expert, that whenever there's a disgruntled teammate that's like, my point score here, and somebody says, no, it doesn't score here. Well, have somebody in your team that can be kind of that final arbiter of the rules. Again, your students are gonna have questions about the games. You guys have too much on your plate. You don't need to be reading through 113 pages. Make your kids do it. They'll know all of the answers. But as you can see, kind of talks about the game, what each aspect of this field looks like, some definitions. Make your kids read this. You do not need to read this. George and I don't even want to read this, and we do VRC more than you guys do.
IQ is like a 30 to 40 page manual.
Yeah.
You go with the VRC, it's over 100. So there's just a lot of details, and it just comes because each team really tries to find ways to bend the rules, and they just keep having to make them bigger and longer. And what you'll see in there that even outlines is at different dates in the season, they'll update the manual because of the loopholes teams find out. So they'll be like, oh, I never thought about, and so they've already made some iterations.
Yeah, it's called a change log, page 4.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see they've already looks like they added a new violation. So as your kids are becoming experts as this, they'll need to go to the change log, see what's new for, the month of June. And actually it looks like they've added multiple violations. So kids have already found ways around the rules and they update this. I don't know when the cutoff for the update is. So, if you make it to state, your kids aren't going to be needing to read this right before
It'll
state.
go all
That's
the way to Worlds.
really,
Yeah.
Never mind.
Updates all the way up right before Worlds.
I take that back then. They will need to be reviewing this up until their competition at Worlds. But like I said, your kids will need to read this. You can print it out if you want. I would suggest not printing it out just with these updates, or you can print out everything but the change log and have the kids check the change log online periodically. All right, so the game. Again, the video does a good job on kind of showing what it looks like for robots to move around. Because it's really unique to see 4 robots move around a field. So again, I would encourage you to watch it. There's also tons of videos on YouTube of really kind of gung-ho teams that have already built their robots, have already set up their fields, and have already started practicing. Again, you're not behind, there's no expectations that you do that, but I would encourage you to go watch those videos to see what it looks like for these robots to be moving around. But this is the field. I think it was called over under. Mm-hmm. Yep, over under, nailed it. And we'll talk about what each of scoring looks like and what the field looks like. But you have a red and a blue side. You can kind of see the field, the goals are switched. So this is the red side with the blue field or the blue net on it. This is the blue side with the red net on it. You'll have 60 balls. It starts with 10 balls on the field, and then you'll have loading balls that your alliances will put up in the corners. We'll talk about what that means as you load those try balls onto the field. But like the video showed, the point is to move those balls around the field and score them. We'll talk about what that looks like here in a second. So like I said, you've got 60 of those balls. You've got 4 of those alliance try balls, which are going to be kind of the ones at the front. Here, this picture is a little bit better. You've got 2 designated red and 2 designated blue. We'll talk about again here in a second why those are important, but those can only be scored in very specific areas. You'll have 44 that are match loads. So these are kind of what these look like over here, which means that as balls are removed out of these corners, teammates can put balls into that kind of little triangle. This year that's new, I think you can have a third person on VRC. It used to only be two drivers. You can now have a third person, and the suggestion is that you utilize that person as the loader. And you have 12 that begin on a field. There are 2 sets of elevation bars, one per alliance. You saw that in the video. It's where you have the blue right here, the red right here. It's where those robots are going to hang. You've got 2 goals. Again, that's going to be one per alliance. And you've got those load-in bars, those load zones, which again are outlined by those colors. So that's just an overview of the field. We give you all of those balls. I don't know if there are any extras. I know for last year's game, especially for IQ, there were extras. Find a way to keep track of them because they're not cheap, unfortunately.
You can buy extras, but they usually sell out pretty quick.
Yes, so I would make sure you keep that. And I will say, they will get beat up throughout the year, so it's not uncommon that you'll probably have some that break. But I would just say, do your best to keep track of them. I know you're adults and responsible, but don't let your kids wander off with them.
Oh, I would just wanted to say something because this is a typical question, but it's usually assumed. This game is for the entire year.
Yes.
So every local competition you go to will be playing this year, playing this game. You go to state, they'll be playing this game. World will be playing this game. After World, which is in April, they come up with a whole new game, but using, as Andy said, that same 12-foot by 12-foot perimeter. So everything we're teaching you right now is for this season. Next year, whole new game to design a whole new robot to play with a different strategy.
Yep.
So this is good for this school year.
It is.
Makes it interesting because it always changes.
So we already kind of talked about the setup, but that's where we're going to move into next. Obviously, you'll have your red and your blue side. The alliance partners are going to stand kind of where these colored boxes are, and load the discs and drive the robot from that side. But we'll showcase that here. So again, the point of the game is to score as many points as possible. There's various ways to do it. We'll break down the scoring in a table, but you get points for getting your try balls onto your scoring side, as well as getting points for scoring them under the net. I want to say that it's 5 points for every try ball you get under your net, and 2 points for every that you get on your side, but we will confirm the scoring here in a second. You also get points based off of what is called autonomous. So unlike IQ, where the students are just driving pretty much for the entirety of the time, in high school, there is a 30-second period at which the robots drive around on their own. Controllers down. This is where you'll need a programmer on your team. They hit start on their robot. Actually, I think the field is the one that does it. And they kind of go and do various objectives. And the winner of that period, and we'll talk about what that means to be the winner, gets 10 extra bonus points. Actually, it's 15 seconds. Here we go. So you get one preloaded try ball into your robot. Again, this is going to be overwhelming. Your kids will know all of this. You guys are just there to make sure that they're not throwing the balls at each other. During the autonomous period, you got to keep one robot in the offensive and defensive zone. So if you remember, you take the field, split it down to half, you got a red zone and a blue zone. So one robot needs to stay on each side of those zones. The winner gets is the team that scores the most points gets those autonomous win points. And the way that you do that, again, is in that autonomous, just scoring as many points as possible. Making sure that you keep one robot in your defensive, one in your offense. But there's also called the autonomous win point. Now, it's confusing. But both sets of teams can win this. So there's only one autonomous winner that gets those extra 8 points. But both teams have the chance to win the autonomous win point. And the way that you get that win point is by scoring at least one of the try balls in your goal. One of your robots touching the pole, so they don't have to be hanging from their pole, just making contact with it. And then there's one other thing. And removing one of your balls from that loading zone. So if your alliance does that in the first 15 seconds, you get that autonomous win point. Both teams can win that. But then while they're trying to do those three things, they also need to be trying to score as many points as possible to win that autonomous overall win points, which I think is 8.
Can I ask a
Just
question?
so it's understood, this is all coded. So autonomous period is not a driver driving with remote control. They don't touch the remote. It is all autonomous. So they'll hit a button at the start of the match. The field actually engages, like the robots connect to the field, and when the match starts, they will go and do whatever the students programmed it to do to score these points autonomously. So it's kind of cool. You'll see 4 robots roaming around doing things, hopefully scoring these points, but without a remote control. So the neat thing in practice is this is really engaging the coders, where IQ coding is it's like kind of a separate competition. They've embedded the coding element into the competition. So in your 2 minutes of competition, 15 seconds of it, it's 2 minutes, right?
Mhm.
The 15 seconds of it is fully autonomous. Some kids don't code it at all, and it sits there for 15 seconds and doesn't contribute to their alliance. But you would really encourage to get your kids to do something. I mean, Andy said as easy as just drive and touch the pole could contribute to the alliance.
Is there a different coding platform than there is with IQ?
There it is.
Yes,
Okay.
there it is. It's a little bit more in depth. I know that the IQ is like drag and drop scratch.
Yeah.
Once
Yeah.
you get into the high school space, it's more of it's not Java.
Is it C++?
It's one of them,
Okay.
but it's more
Python.
typing. It might be Python.
Okay.
I think it's more typing, and you have to have the functions and the commands.
Okay.
There are tons of resources online that can showcase students how to get started. And we also offer, and we'll talk about this later, it's called the Purdue Coding Help Hotline,
Right.
with Purdue coding students who will kind of assist your students. But there's tons of resources. I know that if you handed me that and said, code your robot to do something, I'd have no idea. There's tons of resources.
You can use Vexcode, which is drag and drop. It's just no team.
Well, is
It's
there a
good
separate
start.
one that we can download and they use that? Right.
Vexcode,
Just that.
yeah,
code?
Vexcode is a
Yeah.
good starting
Okay.
point, but kids pretty quick. Well, if your students have coding experience from high school, there is it's called I think it's code.
Vex V.
Vex code text. It's Vex code blocks, Vex code text.
Okay, and they
So
can do that on
block-
iPad,
On the
or they need
text,
something else.
on the text, you'll probably need a laptop. On the blocks, I think you can use a code.
Mhm.
If you guys are like, I need a laptop, let us know. Maybe we can find an old used laptop for you. Anytime you guys ever need anything, just ask, and the worst we'll say is no. So if you guys need a laptop for coding, I can easily go to a donor and say, give me an old laptop, just something that works. We have kids that want to learn how to code,
Okay. Thank you.
so we can help you out. Nick, did you have a question?
Yeah, so since
I can't
you're
hear Nick, though.
not gonna
Oh,
know
hold on,
your
Nick, we can't
alliance
hear you.
until you get there, you're not gonna know whether,
Nick's talking.
does my
I
robot
don't
need
know
to
if they can
be
hear
in
us.
the offensive side or on the defensive side? Do these brains allow you to have two sets of code that you can run there?
Maybe Nick's
Okay,
talking
we're gonna run the
silence.
defensive side code, or okay, we're gonna run the offensive side code, or how does that work? Because like when
yeah.
you're coding
I feel like they would
autonomous,
let us know if they can hear us, right?
it
I can't.
like
make my Zoom log.
normally you're not having to, that's two different
right.
options. So I know
So
with
that's
IQ,
the
we had to
autonomous
just
period,
pick it and run
15
it.
seconds. Goes very quick. And then you've got the rest of the game. Scoring as many points as possible. We're going to break down what each of the scoring looks like. So you've got those nets. Your red alliance is going to be scoring obviously in the red. The blue is going to be scoring in the blue. You get 5 points for getting these tri balls underneath the net. The balls are taller than the net, so they need a little force to get in there. You can't make a robot that just kind of like shoots it under the net. You got to put some force into it. The tri balls are not going to fit in that open gap, so it's going to have to be entered through the floor. And then there's no points that you get for getting the tri balls onto the net, and the net is designed to have the tri balls roll off of it. If a tri ball does get stuck on the net, your loader can go and grab it and just kind of take it off to the side. It can't be scored. But the only way to score, at least in the net, is just to get it under. Again, using that little bit of force. For a tri ball to be scored, 2 corners need to be inside the goal. The best way to do is just make sure that it's underneath the bar. But for example, if you moved this tri ball out just a little bit and only one of the corner was kind of underneath that, it's not going to count. So 2 of the corners need to be inside the goal. You also get 2 points for each of the tri ball you get in your offensive zone. So like I was mentioning earlier, you've got a blue offensive zone and you've got a red offensive zone. Those are going to be opposite of your loaders. So once you get a ball out of your loader, which is going to be your defensive zone, kind of carry it over into your offensive zone. I feel like I just said offensive and defensive way too much, but you get points for every ball that you have on basically the opposite side of where your drivers are standing. Questions about the easy parts of the scoring? 5 points.
Ooh, sorry, Nick had a question.
Yes.
Since there are 2 separate rules, offensive zone and defensive zone, and you don't know which you will have until you meet your alliance right before you go, do the brains allow us to have 2 separate sets of code for autonomous? Yes. The answer is yes.
They do. However, each side of the field is going to be set up exactly the same. So whether you're on the left or the right side, the tri balls will be in the same spot.
Gotcha. Yep. You can have multiple, the brain will allow you multiple sets of code for autonomous. And then the other thing that we encourage is to just, if you can always you get the match schedule before the day starts. And in VRC, there's typically only 6 matches in a VRC competition, where in IQ there's 8. So there's less matches. They just last longer. So when you get your schedule, you typically, scouting sometimes comes into play, where you can look at what your other alliances that you'll be paired up with can do. So sometimes your kids might know what they can and cannot do. So you come up with a better autonomous strategy, so to speak. But it is important to have your kids talk to the other team and kind of work that out. But Nick has a really good point. He's basically saying, like, how do you determine in autonomous mode what I will do and the other team will do? Can you have change the codes prior to the match starts? Because it's one thing to talk about a strategy and say, I'm going to go left, you go right. It's another thing to say, I pre-coded this to do something. And when we get paired up with the other robot, our code has to be able to do something that complements the other robot, if that makes sense. Good question, Nick.
So for those alliance balls that I was talking about at the beginning, the red tri balls and the blue tri balls, when those are scored, it is automatically going to go to the team of that color. So if you're the red alliance, you score a blue in your side, it's still going to count for the blue alliance. So you've got those two balls that are automatically, no matter where it's scored, is going to go towards that alliance. We already talked about the autonomous. Again, completely coded based. You get you can score the most points to win the alliance win point, but then you also, both sets of teams have the option to win another autonomous win point if they do those three things, which is get a ball out of their corner, get a contact with the pole, and then score one in their goal. And then the next 45 seconds is going to be that driver controlled. I know we've kind of already talked about that. The point of this is just as you move around the field, this is where the drivers really shine, scoring as many points as they possibly can. Just a key note is that robots can only possess one tri-ball at a time. And then you have the final 10 seconds, which is that in-game. This is where they have the opportunity to hang. I'm very excited to see what kind of robots people build for this aspect of the game, because I think it'll be interesting to see how high some of these robots get. But the way that it's determined is you've got anywhere from 20, 15, 10, and 5, kind of scaling down for the highest robot getting 20, lowest robot getting 5. There are elevation tiers, so the games are going to come with a stick that kind of has what those tiers are. And then points are allotted to each of those robots based off of their highest point. So for example, the highest point for, B looks, I don't know, it's a bad example. It's going to be, the score is going to be based off the highest point of the robot as their hand. I think that's everything here. Elevation. Oh, if they're at the same level of another robot, they're going to share that elevation tier point. So in this example, it looks like B and C are pretty close. They would share whatever that second highest points are at 15. So that's the final 10 seconds. Ooh, that looks funky. This is just further breaking down. These are examples. So when you're at home or when you're at a robotics practice and your kids have questions about what the elevation means, these are different examples of what those tiers mean with the showcasing of those robots. So you can kind of look through these examples, try and make it a little less confusing for you as you are trying to explain to your students how this game works.
So it looks like the bottom is the bottom league, the views.
So
Where they measure.
The lowest point
is it the lowest
being-
point? I thought it was the highest point.
See,
the lowest
everything
point.
lines are like
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
the
looks like
views,
you're
is that
right.
It's the low, well, because it's measuring from the ground to the lowest point of the room.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the lowest.
So it's not. the-
So
the views
sometimes,
are
like,
upside down.
if that was upside down, yeah.
Gotcha. I'm gonna change this.
So it'll be the top side.
Lowest point. Thank you.
And I sent you, Andy, so just kind of breaking down the 2-minute period. First 15 seconds, autonomous coding. They try to do the autonomous points for bonus. Then the rest of the match, they're going to be driving with the remote control with their alliance partner against the other team to score as many points as they can, as everything Andy outlined. Then the last 10 seconds, you can go to the pole and try to hang as higher. And that's just the last 10 seconds. And that's driving with remote. I sent you a video. I don't know if this would be helpful at all. Where'd you get baseball?
It's sitting right there.
I sent you a video. I don't know if it'd be helpful to just show a match.
So
Did
yeah,
you already
we
get
can.
one? Did you already put one in there?
So I have one in here, which is the field tour. But yeah, we can show a match. It's not gonna be any.
There's probably no sound. I just thought maybe this would help just see one in action. And then I'll put in the chat the video I'm playing.
So you can see as the robots get to their get to the net, you kind of have to force those the discs underneath. They don't kind of roll themselves.
So that first 15 seconds goes quick. That was all autonomous challenge. Now you can see they're driving and the feeders, you can see in the corners are like feeding the robots. That's gonna be really weird and interesting this year.
So they physically put those balls on the robots.
Yes,
Sure,
that's
okay.
what the feeder does.
Look at him just sit there and launch
Launching
them over.
them.
I mean, it's just unique, interesting strategy. That's new this
That's
year. And that's why they're allowing a third person. You're gonna have two drivers. And you can see them on the left side, they must be in some basement because they're barefoot over there. You can see the two drivers and then there's like the auto loader, the human loader, off to the side, so. And then you can see there's a bar you have to climb over, or you have to go underneath the bar. So they're trying to climb over there. There's the catapult. That is awesome.
And the design of these balls, they'll roll forever.
And they're playing defense. You can see his little guard there, he's blocking. I mean, it's you don't know what you're going up against. I mean, you just kind of have to be ready. I'm gonna say ready for everything, because it's really hard to, I always tell students, like, you can't make a robot that does everything. Sometimes you have to just find like one or two things you're gonna work on, and that's your quality. Like, I'm gonna play defense. And I'm gonna be really fast or really strong or whatever it might be, and I'm just gonna block those catapulters. And I'm just gonna go on the other side of the field and push people around.
I gotta run to the office to get my charger.
Yeah.
Here's your scoring summary, and then I put in this video right here. This is from Vex. It'll give you a tour of the field, of the game rules. It's done by somebody from Vex, from REC, so they'll do a better job than what I just did. But I would encourage you all to watch it.
So this is Grant Cox, who actually makes the game. He's part of the game committee. So it's a really nice video he just did at a coach's training. And so it's a long video though, but it goes over all the rules, all the explanation. He breaks down the manual a lot more. But going back to that manual, it's just, there's so many iterations of, well, what if I did that? What if a ball goes out of bounds? What happens? What happens if my robot goes out of bounds? Can I get entangled with another? They pretty much have a rule explaining all of these issues. I apologize to those that are online. I'm no longer monitoring the chat because I'm behind Andy's laptop now. So if you have a question, you can try unmuting yourself, but I don't know if we have audio. So I'll do my best to keep an eye on things. I'm going to kind of talk about questions about the game. Are there any questions about the game as it speaks right now? Because I'm going to kind of go into what a robot competition looks like and how it works. Just kind of a show of hands. Now I have my laptop, I can see. At home in the room, how many of you have been to a robot competition for VRC? VRC?
I've just been to at the state. but we
Just
saw
state,
What
yeah.
Okay. And what about IQ? IQ, no competition. What about online? BRC, how many online have been to BRC? Never seen any of these. Biz, that's fine. Online, and then online, how many have been to IQ? Okay. Yep. All right. So, IQ and VRC, they're similar, but there's some significant major differences. As we said, IQ is a smaller field. They're plastic robots. There's two robots on a field together trying to score as many points as they can. VRC is 4 robots on a field. 2 are working together and they're trying to score more points than the other 2. The competition layout is almost identical than IQ. I mean, there's not much difference at all. Just the field sizes are bigger. The matches take longer. And I would say the competition level, like the intensity, is turned up a lot. I hate to say that now. It just is. Everything is just, it's a different level. The kids are more competitive. The parents are more competitive. The coaches are more competitive. Elementary is my favorite. The kids are just so sweet and nice and kind. And then you get to high school and it's kind of not cutthroat, but they're a lot more strict on the points, the referees, the scoring. Nope, that should count. So there's just a lot more I guess, intensity when it comes to the high school level. Now, with all that said, you compare this to sports, compare this to football, basketball, soccer, those, I think robotics is a different environment. You're a lot more welcoming and opening. I think it's more inviting to new coaches, where hopefully, we try to say this as much as we can, that new coaches are welcomed by other coaches. Veterans are they're going to tell you're new. You're going to walk around clueless. You're going to be overwhelmed by all the stuff going on. And hopefully the coaches are saying, hey, can I help you out? Hey, you have a question? Hey, why don't you come follow me around? So that I can give you an idea of like how this lay of the land works. But this overview here, when do I need to stop talking?
12,
Got it. But we still have to build two.
if we have time.
Got it.
Before we
Okay.
start complete cutoff.
I just want to show a few things that for those that have never been to a competition, it's usually divided in 2 sections. And this is typically held in, the competition is usually held in a gymnasium, and in the pit area where it says pits is usually held in like a cafeteria. In the gymnasium is the arena where you'd see the matches. And sometimes there's either going to be 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 fields. Sometimes there's 2 going on at the same time. Sometimes it's going on this field, then it moves on to the next field. And then the pits is like your home base. It's just like in IQ, you'll usually get a cafeteria sized table. It hopefully has power that you can charge batteries and laptops for coding, but that's where you're going to drop all your stuff off. And between matches, that's where you'll probably hang out. So pits, home base. When you go to a competition, I'll pick on this group right here. This is a great little case because it has all their parts in it, and it's like a little travel on wheels. It's a nice little thing to use. You don't need to have that. Another thing is these robots are about the size of a microwave. I usually say to get kind of like a plastic storage bin to transport them in, to carry them in. You would hate to have your kids walking in the parking lot, trip on a curb, and then robot smash. Good things is they're metal. They are a lot more robust than the IQ. They don't break and shatter as much as the plastic robots. The differences though is when these things fall and crash, they're aluminum and they could bend permanently. So you sometimes have to remove the material and like hammer it back out or flatten it out or completely replace it. So it is a lighter material. It is a light aluminum, but it does take bends and they stay in form and stay in that shape. All right. So what you see here is the practice field, the pits. They usually have a practice field where you can just go on the field, practice, test things out. They have 2 fields and they usually have bleachers so you can watch the competitions, but then they have a skills field. Can we talk about skills scoring or anything yet? Okay. So skills field is something completely separate from the competition. So at these VRC, you'll typically get 6 matches to compete with an alliance partner. That's what we've been talking about. It's 2-on-2. The skills, we're going to talk about that here in a second, is completely separate, but I encourage every team to do it because it doesn't hurt your scoring or ranking at the competition. And it's only your robot on the field to see how many points it can score without another alliance partner. The way I usually say it is this is you trying to prove how many points you can get without the influence of another alliance partner or another team. And the score actually goes online to a world ranking system. And when we do state invitations, I'm going to say last year, roughly, we may have invited 5 high school teams from the skills ranking. Middle school IQ and a high school IQ is much different. We usually invite like 20 or more. But where I'm going with this is skills is a way to prove how good you do, how well you do without the influence of another team. It's also kind of a braggable way because you can compare yourself to against other schools. I'll just tell you like what I set up there, that every year your first year is going to suck. I'm going to tell you all, and I hope you prove me wrong, it's even more in VRC high school. You'll all suck. Like, it's going to be very hard to a first year team gets a state in high school. It is just another level, and the learning curve is much more severe. So your first year, you're going to be clueless. You're going to get your butts kicked. You're going to be in last place. your second year, you'll do better. But your first year is tough, it's hard, and you'll get your butts kicked. I thought I saw someone on there online that said they're doing middle school VRC. And I don't know if you guys remember from Jamie's, the VRC is awkward for middle school because you can do IQ or VRC. There are currently no middle school VRC competitions. They're all blended with high school. So for those of you doing middle school VRC, you're
gonna learn a lot.
You're gonna learn a lot. That's the nicest way to say it. I almost said you're screwed. I just tell middle school VRC coaches, because they'll have middle school IQ coaches saying we're gonna add a VRC team. And I was like, that's cool, that's good. But like, they're so good right now at middle school IQ, and they're like, we're ready to go to the big leagues. And we're like, that's great. But the jump is huge. It's going like from freshman football to NFL. If that's the best way to say it. Maybe college, maybe going up against Purdue. Yeah, there we go. So it's just a huge jump, and these middle school VRC kids get a little discouraged, but that's how it is for VRC. Is like, you're going to get a little discouraged in the beginning. You just have to set those expectations that these kids have been doing it for a long time, and going from plastic to metal is different. So anyway, that's the layout of the land. Pits, competition area, skills field. You can usually get 3 driver, 3 autonomous skills runs, and it takes the best of all your scores. Just like IQ, it does the best of all scores no matter how many competitions you go to. So if you go to 2 competitions, you get 3 driver, 3 programming. You go to another competition, you get 3 and 3 again. So 6, and your ranking is based on your best of all of those runs. So
Scoring is the same, there's just no autonomous.
this is just a highlight qualifying matches versus skills matches. So qualifying matches is you know, red against blue. There's 4 robots on the field. Skills is a driving score and a programming score. So you get 3 driving, you get 3 programming attempts. Some competitions, if there's no line, they'll let you do all of them at once. So you do a driving, you get 3, 2, 1, go. You drive, score as many points. No one on the field, just you and your robot. Time. That's your score. Let's reset it. I'll let you do programming now. Okay, do programming.
Do they switch controllers?
All the rules are exactly the same.
Okay, okay,
Yep.
okay. So in other words, we're gonna have 2 drivers and a loader.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's even for skills.
Yep.
Okay, okay.
The only thing that's a little different on skills for programming, and Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's just like IQ. You could do a run and then pick up your robot and bring it back to start and let it run again. So like, you could have multiple, this first one is to drive and go pick up that ball.
Yeah.
Bring it back, hit program 2. Now it's going to run and push over here. So you could do multiple programs in autonomous. Any questions online? I know IQ has 3 auto and 3 driver. Yep, just yeah, perfect. Any other questions online? All right. This is just showing the difference between a qualifying match. You can see there's 4 robots. There's in this example, that's 2 drivers, 2 drivers, 2 drivers, 2 drivers. This year it's packed. It'll be 3, 3, 3, 3. Skills, it's just 2 drivers, 1 robot. That's just showing you the difference. This is something that I tell all coaches what you're gonna do when you go to your first competition. Oh, if this hasn't been entered, I'm gonna just reiterate, if this has already been said, you want to try to go to 2 or 3 competitions this year. So going back to you'll suck this year, your first competition this year will be like disaster.
You might get bullied by the other.
I mean, you're just not going to be great your very first one. The second one will go so much better. Instead of last place, you might be second to last place. And then the third, I think, is when you'll like hit your stride of like, this is good. This is fun. My kids are having a good experience. But please trust me, the hardest year for any coach and any student is your first year. They have to get through it, and don't just go to one competition, because I'm telling you, you're not going to do great. The kids will get mad and frustrated. They're going to see the competition and say, wow, they're so good. Ours stinks. Use that as inspiration. Yeah, they're good because they've been doing this for a while. And this is the coolest thing. You've heard it, you've said it. Talk to those coaches, exchange phone numbers, have practices together, do Zoom calls together. say, hey, can your students mentor my students? And like, how did you create that lifting mechanism? That's so cool.
Well, and I'm glad you mentioned that because when she started the IQ in the middle school, she had a mentor coach.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get them?
We can email us, Jamie, and like, we'll find
Okay.
one in your area. What, you guys are in,
Southern
Pekin.
Pekin.
where's,
Out in the middle of nowhere.
there is, what's that big city right there? North
Louisville.
Jackson or Jacksonville? Just north of Louisville, Jeffersonville?
Yeah.
Jefferson.
I think we have some VRC teams in that
Okay,
area.
perfect.
Okay.
And where are you, remind me?
I'm here.
In Indianapolis?
What's your district? We are, I believe we're ideas.
'Cause we got loads of coaches in Indianapolis. So, you know, that's a really helpful thing. I told you a mentor coach south of 30 by Valpo. There are plenty in the Valparaiso area. I would just email Jamie if you want, and what we'll do is make some introduction to some coaches in your area. Also, I'll just throw this on here. We have our robot map. Did Jamie show you the robot map? She did? Okay, so use our robot map to find. Sorry, I'm using Andy's Mac and it's just so slow. All right, yeah. If I was on my PC, it would be flying on the internet, but anyway, we have a robot map. On that map, you can see where other teams are and we'll connect you. All right, so you go to your first competition. You're gonna get a schedule where it's gonna show you where so Jamie mentioned like you need to know your team number, like write it down. You might call yourselves the Gearheads. Well, that's not your team. It's actually your team name. We'll say we're 5.
Lady here. To see if she's getting scheduled.
I'm gonna mute. Who is? I don't know who it is. Anyway,
Okay.
574J. Let's say that's our team number. So what I say is I look for 574J and I highlight them throughout the entire schedule. And I look, in this match, I'm gonna be red. This is who I'll be with, 6842K. So in the pits, I might go and look for that team and say, hey, we're in match 4. What does your robot do? What do you want us to do? We're good at defense. You're good at offense. Great. That's what we'll strategize with. Have your students have these conversations, not coaches. You are not talking with the kids. The coaches are not talking to the kids. If the coach is talking to your kids, I usually say the nicest thing instead of saying, hey, stop talking to my kids. Is, hey, coach, I got a question for you, and just distract them. And then if they're like, oh, I need to talk to your kids, be like, no, I let the kids work this out. Best of luck with that. There are some coaches, I'll just say, that are very hands-on and want to influence the matches and things like that. It's not allowed. You can let the event partner know that a coach is being a little bit more hands-on with it. But anyway,
And I will say,
Go
this
ahead.
past year, there were issues with it.
Suspect.
There should be no team or coach that tells your robot to sit in the corner.
Oh, something else.
This past year, especially with IQ, as it starts to get really competitive, some of those teams are gonna wanna, they know that their robot can score all the points. And don't be offended by the fact that they can't score all the points, but don't let teams say, don't let them like tell your kids not to.
Tomorrow.
Yeah. So I would bring that, again, you can go to a coach and let them know, because sometimes coaches aren't aware. If it continues, you want the event partner know, but we want to create an environment of robotics that is exciting for all the kids. We don't want any kids to put all this hard work into a robot that's going to lose.
Yeah.
So just be conscious of that, especially the first year team.
Possibly.
I don't know who our random. Everyone's muted.
The ones I told you. Who live over by Columbia City.
I don't know who this is. It's really kind of weird. All right. I'm gonna go kind of quickly through this. Your score you get for a round is based on the total score of your alliance. So I'm just what that means. In this first match, Q4, I'm on the red team, and we got 25 points. 574J, 6842K, we got 25 points. Together, we got 25 points. That's gonna stay with us, that's banked. Sometimes you're gonna get a lot of points in a match because you're with a good team, and most of the time, you're gonna be the bad team. And so it depends on who you're paired with. So the next match, if you're, let's fast forward to the next match, 7. We're blue. We're paired with 52718D. They didn't help much and we're not good. We only got 8 points. So we got 25 plus 8. That's kind of our, I don't want to say it's our cumulative score right now, but you can think that's the easiest way to say it. We're not even going to go over the rankings with you because that's even more complicated on how they do the rankings. It's all digital. And then there's a whole section in the manual that talks about it. But you can think of it as you have 25 plus 8. Questions on that?
So it's not like an average, like IQ.
It is, and they throw the lowest away still, but they
Okay.
also influence on your autonomous ranking.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we talk about autonomous points, that is considered part of it. So it's all explained right here.
Okay.
It's based on average points, the number of matches played, the average autonomous points, the average strength of schedule, which is different, highest match scores. This is how the rankings put. It's very confusing. And I say, you know what, don't worry about it right now until you get really like into it. I would say the most important is you want to score a lot of points. Winning helps, and the autonomous helps. Those are kind of your 3 things you want to worry about your ranking. So winning a match, scoring a lot of points in that match, and winning your autonomous period.
I don't want this to sound like
Yeah.
a random tangent either. You keep saying that you're gonna be bad, pushing forward. This past year at Worlds, an Indiana team won the Excellence Award, which is like the highest award. So technically, an Indiana team in VRC won Worlds. And this team had sophomores on it. A couple of these kids wanted to do robotics for a couple of years. Coaches were fairly new. So it may be frustrating. We don't need to be like, your season's gonna be awful. Like, you're gonna have a great time. Your scores might not reflect what the students feel like. So don't take us saying like you're gonna be bad in a bad way. It just takes, like, you're gonna instill your kids perseverance and teamwork, continued efforts in your robots, talking with other teams, learning strategies. So we want you to prove us wrong of us saying that you're gonna be bad, but know that, you know, your second year is going to be great. Your third year is going to be even better, and you might make it to the Worlds your 3rd or 4th year.
Yeah.
So just want to throw that in. George, I keep saying
I'm just trying to set expectations here. You're not going to have an awful experience.
Yes, but as you keep going, your team will get better. Your experience is going to be great.
Yeah.
Practice once, be the best thing ever.
And
It's going
shove
to
it in my face when you're
Yeah.
at state and be like,
That's right.
you told me I'd suck and I'm here at state. Like, tell me I was wrong. I would love to see you at state. I don't mean anything by it, but if
Yeah.
you'd set expectations low on your ranking, you do better, it's going to be a better experience for everyone.
Yes.
Something that's different in VRC versus IQ is after you do your 6 matches and the ranking happens, the number 1 alliance gets to pick who they want to be paired with versus automatically paired. And it goes into a final tournament bracket, single elimination.
Did
So
they invite each other? That was the invitation time?
yeah, so like number 1 gets to say, all right, let's say you're second, I'm first, second, third, fourth, fifth. Number 1 goes, I want to be with the 8th best team. So none of you are in the finals right now. So we're going to make each competition has different. In this one, they have 16 alliances. So that's 32 teams are going to make it to the finals. So I'm going to pick a team, and then you pick a team, and then you pick a team, and it just goes down the line. But, okay, I'm going to pick you in my alliance. So now you get a chance, you get a chance. They're already picked. Now he gets to pick, and it's like kickball rules.
Okay.
So it's just like, it's you get to pick who you want to be with. And then the
But
alliance,
top teams don't get to be with each other.
they could choose. Like I could pick you, but it's just kind of weird. It's just like IQ. It's the luck of the draw who you're paired with. The ranking doesn't always reflect the best robots. You might be a defensive robot and number 2 is a defensive robot and be like, 2 defenses isn't going to win. I need an offense, and the next best offense is right there. So I might skip over these 2 and go with you. And it's not like you guys aren't good. It's just you don't complement my strengths or weaknesses rather. Single elimination. It's a tournament, and each competition, they're either going to be a round of 8, 16. Those are probably their 2 brackets. It's been a round of 8, so 16 teams, or a round of 16, which would be 32 teams. I'm not going to go any further on that. This is what a day typically looks like. It's not much different than IQ. The days just last a little longer because the qualifying matches, number one are 2 minutes long versus 1. 2, field reset takes more time. And 3, there's usually more discrepancies on rank or on points with the referees and the students. So typically 8 o'clock, you check in about 8 to 9, you check in and do inspection. We'll talk about inspection here really quick, shortly. Then you'll have opening ceremonies. You'll get your match schedule around 10 to see who you'll be paired up with. And then you'll have qualifying matches probably till 3 with finals lasting about an hour and a half. Take a while. Is this all true? Okay, your robots have to be 18 by 18 by 18. What that means is it has to fit into a theoretical box of 18 inches by 18 inches by 18 inches. Your robot can extend beyond that.
Question for your kids to find out.
It can, I just don't remember how much and which way. But it must start in a compact 18 by 18 by 18 inch cube. So during inspection, you can look up the inspection sheet. We should link to an inspection sheet on here. And it basically says like how many motors you can have. I mean, you could just Google VRC. Andy's Mac was faster. We gotta get you a new computer, Andy. You can do VRC inspection sheet. Maybe that'll bring it up. Yep. Well, that was much faster that time. This is the inspection sheet. The kids can look at it. This judges just go right on the list, and you can see the very first thing is 18 by 18. Oh, there we go. It does not exceed 36 inches in any horizontal dimension while expanded. So it can expand, but not beyond 36. So you could do 36 this way, bring it in, 36 this way, bring it in, but you cannot go 36 in 1 and 2 directions. So horizontal dimension.
But like vertical is, what is it?
I don't know that.
Okay. That's
I don't know. We'll find out because there's a pole and you got to grab it. It's a great question. These are just friendly reminders. Go to more than 2 competitions. There's a link on how to sign up for an event. And we already went over robot events is where it shows all your competitions. Questions before we have 15 minutes to go over parts. But questions from online. Initial version of rules say the vertical limit was unlimited. Not sure about revisions. Can we go watch one of the? Yes. So Biz asked a good question. I get this question all the time. This is a great question. You may or may not like my answer. Can you go to a competition and watch it? Yes, they're all free. You can. But I usually say, and I'm going to pick on rural schools, there might not be many events to choose from. So if there's one in your area, I would attend it as a competitor before just saying I'm going to watch first. A lot of people want to watch it, see what it's all about. I get that. Now, if you live in Indianapolis, there might be 30 competitions to choose from. So that might be easier for you. Or if you want to drive up to Indy or Fort Wayne or northwest corner, Valparaiso has about a dozen in that area.
Louisville and Sheriff's competitions.
You go down to Louisville.
There's
Yeah.
one in Louisville, that would probably
Yeah,
be
you can go down to
They
Louisville.
could be compete in Louisville, or would we have to stay in Indiana?
The rules are all different each state. You can, it won't count towards state. But if they'll let you in, yes, you could probably go over there. You can always email the event partner and say, hey, I'm in Indiana, can I come compete? But yeah, if you win it, which let's be honest, we're not gonna win it. But let's say you do, it won't qualify you for state because it's a different state.
Right.
So are the competitions like outskirts of Indiana or are they really like?
There are, for VRC high school last year, there were probably 40, maybe 50 events in Indiana. Most of those were in the Indianapolis, central Indiana donut area with a few scattered out. Now, they have competitions throughout the entire country. Indiana has, in Michigan, probably have the most VRC high school teams. We have about 270 VRC high school teams. When we brag about Indiana has more elementary and middle school robotics teams, we say specifically elementary and middle because high school, we get beat by California, in Texas, I think. There's more high school teams.
We'll also have, we're working on doing like a IPS specific competition, especially for new coaches, at Marshall Tech. So we'll should briefly do on that. Sorry.
Sorry.
Questions were asked, what do I need for, oh, Biz, hopefully that helped to answer your question. Biz, what part of the state are you? Northwest. Yes, hopefully there's more events for you to attend. I would just make sure you look at the full calendar. And if you only have 2 or 3 in the area, I would attend as many as you can. If you only have 2 in the area, I would not go watch the first one and then only let your kids compete at one. As Andy said before, like if your robot can drive or move, go to the event. Get your butt kicked, but go to the event. All right. Here's what's in your kit of parts. The question was asked, like, what all do I need? I'm going to tell you what you need. It's just the people that are on this call. We have a variety. Some of you got our full grant, which includes everything. Some of you only got part of a grant. Some of you don't even have our grant. And you're just sitting because you like us and robots. But you don't get a grant at all. So I'll tell you everything you need, and then you'll have to ask Andy or Jamie what came in your specific grant. So I'm going to actually pull up on Vex Robotics what I would recommend for your first year. Most of you, if you got our grant, it's going to come with all this stuff. So new this year, they have pneumatics. I don't think any first year team needs pneumatics right now. That'd be really cool to add eventually, but right now you don't need to be worrying about it. It's really cool, and I bet every really good team is going to have a pneumatic system. All right, under Vex, if you remember, you click on V5 and then products. Forget the people online can only see over my screen over here. I just went to products and kits. This super kit, it's called a competition super kit. This is what we usually give to anyone that got our grant. That's bare minimum, bare bones. And I say bare minimum, bare bones, it's $1,899. It's not cheap. And it comes with all of the parts here. I bet that is what that is.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, open it up. Go for it. Yep. The nice thing is this comes with the brain, which is the probably the most expensive. That is just like IQ. That's the brain. It has all of your IO ports for inputs and outputs. It has, I believe, 8 motors in it. It has the remote control. It has your radio connection so that the two can talk to one another. It has a lot of extra parts. Now, with all of that said, if you have a lot of extra money and you have a very supportive school system and you're like, what other things would I buy? I'm going to show you some other things that I would buy. Under V5 structure.
That'll help you. No, the one that we have.
Yeah, I'll show you. Yeah, I'll pull that up here. There is a booster kit and a metal and hardware kit. These are just a lot of extra parts versus going through and kind of piecemealing everything together. This is 200 and that's 90. It just has a lot of extra parts. These are 2 nice things that, like, if I had $300 extra to buy parts, you're probably going to want to buy structural parts. You don't need to buy extra remotes. You don't need extra buy motors. You don't need to buy the pneumatics kits. I would buy more hardware to build your robots. Now, gentleman in the room asked kind of about what that kit can build. In the V5 building instructions, the hero bot this year, is it Striker? Yeah. It's called Striker. This can be built with what's in your super kit. You don't have a lot of extra parts from it, but you have enough that you can actually build all of these robots from your super kit we buy you. I think we pulled out, is the instruction have this thing?
No, well,
This guy?
no.
That one. This is the instruction. The instructions that came in the kit. It's this camera. is this clawbot right here. Very basic, pick and place. It's top heavy. The wheelbase is very close together. If you pick up something heavy, it's going to topple over.
If you go back down to that, I don't think that's the problem.
This one?
Up one. I don't think we're gonna have time to build today. If you want to see what it's like to build one of these robots, I would do the speed bot. It basically just builds the drivetrain, connect the robot motor to it, drive it around. I think it's like 30 and 25 pages. I don't think we're definitely not gonna have time.
Yeah,
But I would
sorry.
encourage you to, if you want to know what it's like to build one of these robots, you can. You don't have to build this. It's up to you, but it's always one of the things we do on staff when you first join, you build a robot. So when you got a team, I would build a robot and I would build this.
That's how we haze our staff.
Yeah, build this robot.
They're just like Lego instructions, just like IQ, how to, what parts you need, how they connect, and so forth. And at the end, as Andy said, very quickly, you can make a drivetrain and chassis. All right, so wait, there's more. Sorry, I want to just show you what else you need. Again, our grant, some of our grants include the field, some include the field and tiles, and some include the game elements. So that's just to build the robot, but you'll also need the field. So this right here is the this perimeter. It's called a VEX portable competition field perimeter. This is what they used at Worlds. This is what we use at State. It's plastic. It folds up into a nice little carrying case, which is nice. This is 12 foot by 12 foot. I'll just say this in high school. This is not like an IQ field where you can just pick it up and put it off to the side easily. Like you'll want a dedicated 12 foot by 12 foot space. The principal won't give you a room, put it in the front lobby of your school. So every time someone walks in your building, they see the robotics and they'll be like, why don't you have why is this in the middle of the school? And be like, well, I don't have a robot room. Why don't you make a donation so we can build one?
So the portable field can be used for competition.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. Now, there are some VRC coaches that will argue that. And when we were hosting State last year, they said, you can't use this at State. But we were talking to RAC and VEX, and this is what they used at Worlds. And we said, we're going to use at State what they use at Worlds. This is what they use. That's why we went with it. All right, V5, back to competition product. So that's the game perimeter. That's $800. That's just the perimeter. And it doesn't include, and I think Biz was asking about the tiles. These tiles right here, you can buy these at Lowe's, but they're not the exact same. These are anti-static full tile kits. So for $250, you can get all of them. Okay.
So kind of see kids in videos that are shoeless, sockless, barefoot, because sometimes the static can charge the field and turn it off.
Yeah.
So I would say don't have your kids walking all over with shoes. They'll learn very quickly from other teams, etiquette around the field. So
that's the perimeter. That's the tiles. I love how they put these pictures in here as if the price includes all of those things, but it doesn't. Because then it looks like, well, I could just buy all of this for $574. No, that's not true. Unfortunately, this only includes, now this is the game. And they don't have a picture of it. That only includes the balls, the net, the poles, little bases. That's it.
And they're pretty sturdy. You shouldn't have to, you should be able to buy one and have that.
Yes.
One. It should not be brave.
And if you have 2 or 3 teams, they can all use the same field. Purdue Polytechnic North has 8 teams and they use 1 field. I think they have a second field finally they've added. That's 8 teams. That's one of the biggest teams. They have a class and a team, which we're piloting. If you guys ever want to do a class, robotics class, we're piloting that this year. So more to come on that. All right, that's the last thing I was going to show about. Any questions online? Oh, I've got a question. Sorry, someone asked. Question regarding auto. I noticed that the portable field has the QR codes on it. Most videos I've seen online don't use the portable fields during competition of the code. As you QR code, what happens if they don't use these during tournaments? So the QR, I could be wrong. Those QR codes right now are for the AI competition, which are not used for VRC. That's completely separate. And I could be very wrong on that, Ricardo. So I'm sorry if I'm saying that wrong. So I think that those QR codes are intended for the AI,
which is a separate competition. I don't know if you guys saw this on here, but there's a little QR code around the perimeter of this. It's hard to see, but it's right there. It's almost like a checkered flag. That's an AI autonomous where they can actually use the intent would be to create code that is AI to learn about their surroundings and what the other robots are doing on the field. And it's like an AI robot competition. Exactly what everyone's scared of
Right.
is Vex is trying to make a game out of it.
Yeah.
Robots taking over.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, your kit, super kit, comes in with all of this stuff, the remote, the brain, the battery. This is the only, oh, that's radio. Motor. The motors come with 3 different gear ratios. I think by default, the green one, which is the middle one, is in there, but which is different than IQ. You can actually unscrew these and drop in a different gear set for speed or power. So green is the middle, but if you saw how fast those robots are, either A, they changed the gear ratios on the motors, or B, they changed out the actual gear ratios, or C, they did both. So you can actually play with gear ratios even more in V5. This is just the structural pieces. They are nuts and bolts. There's lock nuts and there's nylon. Nylon is lock nut is you crank it tight and it's going to stay locked in, and it has these little teeth in here that'll grab on the material. Nylon, you probably played with, has a nylon coating in it that actually holds and locks onto the bolt. Nylon is they both can be permanent connections, but I would suggest the nice thing about nylon is you can use either a grommet or a bushing, but if you put a part where you want it to rotate and swing, but you don't want the bolt to come out, you could actually butt up a nylon to that joint and not tighten it all the way so it can remove freely, but that nylon won't come off. Nylon nuts are consumable. After several threads, once it gets in there, if kids were trying to bolt over and over and over again, eventually these might loosen up. So anyway, you come up with a lot. They a variety of gears. They have control maps. The remotes are a little bit different than IQ, not much different. The interfaces are not that much different. As Andy showed, if you guys do build this at home, this is how you turn on and connect your remote, things like that. I'm going fast because we only have 1 minute left, so I apologize. All of your IO ports, you have a lot, but this model right here shows how to take 4 motors and connect your left drive motor, which is port 1, your right drive motor, which is 10, a claw motor and an arm motor, and the radio. The radio doesn't click in like an IQ brain. It connects in the IO port with one of your tethered cables. So you'll see the radio, which I showed earlier, looks like this. It will take, and you'll have to connect through an IO port. Questions right now? Okay, great. And there is just a great example I was saying is like left port, left motor, right port, and then an arm. Did I make this? This is a really great slide right here. This is a good slide. It shows like your lift arm motor and then a claw motor, all pre-programmed. Now, you can use Vex code or Vex code blocks or text to like change what the ports do. But right out of the box, if we turn this on right now, these are the ports that would work and correspond with your remote control out of the box. This is how to calibrate. Again, as Andy said, I think this is something that you guys can go through and play with at home. Just to turn it on to like get it started, you're just like IQ. You're hitting the start button, the drive button, and it'll automatically start driving for you as long as you wired everything up. Andy put this in here as far as like the build construction for the Striker. This is the very basic robot for a first-year team that's never built a robot, doesn't know where to start. The Striker bot is probably a good starting point. What we always encourage though is this is not and should not be your final design. This is a starting point. This has a lot of deficiencies and problems. Your kids should identify what's wrong with it and improve on it. This should not be your competition bot. This should be your first iteration of many. This speed bot is really just for you guys to play with in the next couple of weeks before school starts. So this could be built in how fast?
like a half hour.
So the record is 30 minutes. See if you can beat Andy.
It's 25 pages.
There are two different kinds of fields.
No, that was.
Oh, never mind. We're just doing
It
the
was
portable
reminders,
fields.
maybe, that we
Do they
don't
get-
buy the ties.
Do they get rid of the old fields? There is two different, Vex complicated this and made it really confusing. They made two different perimeters. This one is really big, takes a lot of time and cannot be disassembled. This one is foldable and cloudable in the bag. This is what I showed online for $7.99. So, yep. I'm gonna go fast here and see if there's anything else I need to show. Oh, there is education certificates that goes basically over everything we just showed you, and you can actually get a certificate. You all get a certificate and PD points that Jamie will email you for your professional developments. PGP points, sorry. But Vex has a whole online course that you could follow along, and that is on those links there. STEM Lab, we showed you that. That is available, that there's lessons in there for your students. Next steps. Recruit students. This has a minimum of 2 students. It's actually, we're gonna edit this because they just made the rule update a week ago. You need at least 3.
I have 3.
You need 3. A typical size is in like the 4 to 6 range. You're gonna have a couple builders, a coder, usually have your drivers, and then the notebook team, maybe a field resetter, someone in charge of the field, putting that together. For grant recipients, those that received a grant, please complete the student and teacher pre-surveys. Jamie and Andy will email those out, and Andy will bug you until you do it. Once you do it, you get a $50 gift card. And then there's a post survey at the end of the year. Once you do that, you'll get another $50 gift card that is meant to spend on yourself. So I always say, buy yourself a margarita mixer and then something else nice.
Do it at your first practice. Jamie already said that it's the easiest, say, welcome to robotics,
And
here's this.
will that come from the robot events email?
It will, and I would be willing to bet it comes to second.
Okay, I have a question about that because our principal is the one that applied for the grant for us. So he's getting those emails. Is there any way that?
Email Jamie to say, can you change the email contact to
Super easy.
now? So
Okay.
there's robot grant at techpointyouth.org. That's us.
Mhm.
And then there's robot events.
Right,
That is in the robot events website. We can change the email address for the robot grant emails. You can email Jamie.
yeah, that's the one that I
Got
had
it.
to change.
Just-
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shoot us an email and-
okay, all right.
I think Jamie and Andy sent out robot event instruction for you to register your team. If you haven't yet, do that. If not, here's a tutorial on how to do that. Perfect. Register for a competition. There's a video on how to do it. I think it's me walking you through how to register for competition. There are some right now available. They'll really start opening up in August, September, and they'll close in around October. They'll be full in October. So take advantage, sign up for 2. That gives your kids a deadline, put the date on the board and say, our first competition is December 1st. Guys, got to build a robot by then. And if it moves, you're going. And if it doesn't move well, you're still going. So get your kids, get a date set. Biz's point of like going to a competition for it and seeing it is a very valid feeling that a lot of coaches have. Do it if you can, but really like if there's a competition near you on a date that works, take your kids, compete.
There's none.
There is none, unless we can go to local.
There are some grant requirements that we asked. Which is one, if you guys do team shirts, if you guys could please put our logo on the back, we'd appreciate it. And then where to get help. So REC's website, here's where we put this on here is, are we not even on here anymore? No, our email address.
It's the first slide. Up there.
No, it's not even on here. Oh, we're the 8th thing on here. Got it. Okay, where to get help? You can go to REC's website. That has a lot of helpful information. Join the Facebook Coaches Corner group. I would say our VRC high school coaches are probably the least engaged. If you're on IQ, that's really engaged, like post every day. VRC is like every 3 weeks we get a post. So we're trying to build that community on the VRC. So don't be shy. If you have questions, put it on there, put it out there.
We will answer that question.
Yes.
It's just not a lot of people post their questions. But if you have questions, put in there. People will answer.
I would get an assistant coach or a STEM mentor, or someone to help you out. Don't do this alone. That's a lot of burden on yourself. And then set the expectations in the beginning of what you need help with. When we were talking about, we don't need people building these robots for the kids. So set those expectations with a really unruly dad that's an engineer that likes to, he builds rockets. I don't know where rockets are built in Indiana, but builds rockets for a job. And he just wants to do a fun hobby and build robots. That's not the job. The job is mentoring on how to build a robot, how to code the robot, not I'm going to show you how to do it. I'm not going to do it for you.
Our
Anyway,
program is
yeah.
very student centered.
Good, good. That's what we like to hear.
Will be too, because
Email us if you want to be connected. Email Robot Grant. Jamie and Andy will connect you with a neighboring school. If that doesn't work out, email us again. We'll try to find someone to talk and work with you. If you have questions about team registration, competition, general questions, REC, Randy Decker and Emily, you'll get emails from them. They're from the REC Foundation. They live here in Indiana. They are here to help support you for REC. VEX parts, you'll have to contact VEX. You can email them here or call them for any VEX related questions. So if you open your box and your brain's not working or the battery's missing or whatever, call them and let them know and they'll get it for you. We're the last group to ask. And we want to help you all, but we want you to check out 1 through 7. If all else fails, then you can reach out to us. The last thing I'll have is coding help hotline that Andy and Jamie talked about. Did we show you where that is? I'll show you again. There's 2 things that you guys can take advantage of is the coding help hotline and our mock interviews. If you go to STEM programs robotics on the left side here, maybe it's just our website's slow. I'll go to coding help hotline right here. I bet it'll start in September. We're gonna let the Purdue students get back into class, but right down here, it says schedule your session time. First off, here's a nice, this is for IQ, new one for VRC.
They're doing VRC right now.
We're gonna upload and put a VRC video in here. But you can schedule, it's just Calendly, you can just schedule a meeting time, there's something right now, to meet with a it's actually gonna be a Purdue computer science college robotics student. They're all on a robotics team, so they know their stuff.
They want to help high school. They like helping the IQ. They like the challenge of high school. Don't be afraid to use it.
They said to us, they go, these little kids' questions are too easy. We want to be challenged.
Yeah, so don't be afraid to use
So they want high school students coming to them. Any questions online before we dismiss? I know it's a long day, a lot of information, but I really appreciate you guys joining us today. Any questions online? I'm not seeing any. I see Biz might be typing. Really looking forward to seeing you guys this year. We're here to help. Let us know how we can help. We want you all to be successful. I say this every time. I think this is one of the best things we can provide our students. It really teaches them so many different skills just on how to be problem solvers, how to work together with other people and other students. You'll be really amazed at the transformation that students go through in just a year of robotics. So I thank you all so much for stepping up. Enjoy what you have left of your summer. Safe travels for those that have to drive. Well, everyone online is probably at home right now, but safe travels on the way back.
Did I have access to that slide? I never got access.
Yeah. Andy will email.
Yeah, it'll be in the email.
No.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yep, all this stuff will be. Yep.
Okay.
We'll do a recording, we'll do the PowerPoints, surveys.
Thanks everyone online. We're going to close out. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. Bye.
Okay, yeah, I can look. Oh, and then can I get your 3 names?
Okay.
Yes. And then I had a question too, and maybe I just,
I wouldn't build the claw bot.
That's a lot. I would do that speed bot. So just go to Vex's website and you can find that speed bot there.
But you also don't have to if you don't want to build anything at all.
You could do that too.
It's up to you.
That thing will probably take 2.5 hours. Speed bot, 30 minutes.